So it's now my very great pleasure to introduce Gabriel Farago, and we're going to have a little series of questions to take you on a journey today. Please welcome Gabriel. So my first question to you is how did you become interested in the work of the Garvan and finally become a board member and a partner for the future?
Firstly, let me open by saying it is an absolute joy and privilege to be here and to be able to talk with you. As volunteers, you are a fundamental backbone of what this organisation does. So when Carol approached me a few weeks ago and she said, look, would you mind coming to the Garvan and talk to the volunteers? First of all, I was very privileged and delighted. And then in reflection, I asked her this. I said, Carol, you know, I'm not a scientist. What exactly would you like me to talk about? She said, don't worry, just entertain them.
I didn't say that.
I'm afraid that's how I recall it. Anyway, I will certainly do my best to do just that. However, to answer the question, how did I first become involved with the Garvan, we really need to go on a little journey back. I arrived in this splendid country as a teenager with a very sound and good Jesuit education coming from Austria and a little brown suitcase under my arm and virtually nothing else. I then went on to study literature and study law. I went into business. I became a practicing lawyer and later on went to the bar and practiced as a barrister. And once this journey came to a certain point, 8 years ago, my wife Joan and I decided it was time to step back, take stock, and to see where we were at. I decided after a long legal career to step back from the law and change direction. And we thought about how to give a little bit of something back to life that has been so good and generous to us in this fabulous country. So I started to look around. A very good friend of mine, and you probably all know him, Charles Curran, said to me, look, come with me, I'll show you something. That was really my first contact with the Garvan. He took Joan and I on a tour. We came here 8 years ago, and we were blown away. In a way, we never left. We stayed. So we decided, as Carol just said, we became bequestors. We instructed our solicitors in certain ways, and we became partners for the future. A year or so later, I was invited and felt very privileged to have been approached. I was invited to join the foundation board, which I did, and I've been a board member ever since. That's how I became involved in the Garvan.
Well, you have alluded to your shady past somewhat. Your former career as a lawyer, which was very successful. And so how did you make that transition from being a lawyer to being a published author, and what motivated you to become a writer?
Again, to answer this question, allow me to take you on a little journey. The journey about writing with me started a long time ago. In fact, it started on my 10th birthday. We were living in my grandfather's hunting lodge in Austria. How that came about is another matter for another story, perhaps one day. But we were living in Austria, and on my 10th birthday, I was given something very, very precious. And it was, in fact, I have it with me. I can show it to you. It's right here. I was given this, just allow me. I don't always carry something like this in my breast, but this is the key to my grandfather's attic, which has been a treasured possession ever since, and did come in that little brown suitcase which I told you about. And what this was simply this. My grandfather was a career officer in the Austro-Hungarian army. Sadly, I have never met him because he died many, many years before I was born. However, he had this hunting lodge in Austria where he came to from time to time during his postings in various parts of the empire. And we lived there at the time. Now this attic, as you can imagine, in one of those lovely Austrian chalets on the very top floor, was, as I later discovered, my grandfather's special place. Not only was it his study, it was the place where he kept all his treasured possessions. So my connection with this extraordinary man started by discovering these extraordinary treasures. They consisted of many, many books, diaries, letters, and memorabilia that he had collected over the years. And it was during my discovery of those that the inspiration for the book that you were kindly provided here today, The Empress Holds the Key, incidentally nothing to do with this key, The Empress Holds the Key, first originated. Part of what was discovered in my grandfather's army trunks that were stored in this particular place were diaries from a Franciscan monk. I discovered later a very, very close friend of his who had traveled to Egypt and was researching something very special reflected in the scriptures. And when Brother Lucius, as he was called, passed away, he left his diaries to my grandfather. And those diaries were in that place. And it was the contents of those diaries that inspired me many years later to revisit the subject matter and became the inspiration for the book which I hope you will be able to read and I hope you will be able to enjoy. So that's where the inspiration came from. Now, the transition from a full-time lawyer to writer happened at the same time, basically, that I discovered and joined the Garvan. Namely, it coincided with my stepping back from full-time practice. It was time to change direction. The word retirement does not enter my vocabulary. In fact, I don't even know how to spell it. But it was time to change direction. Fortunately, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, because in the back of my mind during all these years was the plan that one day I will devote my time to become a fiction writer. And I had the inspiration for what I believe was a really, really inspirational subject matter in the back of my mind all these years. Well, after saying one day, after saying maybe tomorrow, well, tomorrow had arrived. It was time to change direction, and that's what I did. So when I stepped back from the law, I discovered Garvan, I became a partner for the future, I joined the board, and I became a full-time writer. And that has developed into a new career, and I stand before you now as a writer. My second book, The Disappearance of Anna Popov, has just been released a week ago, and is now also available worldwide. So that's basically how the transition happened. It originated a long time ago and is part of the journey from the 10-year-old who discovers his grandfather and his ideas and his treasured possessions until one day I'm able to revisit that subject matter and put pen to paper and hopefully entertain you with my book. Yes, of course.
So I know that you're working on another novel. Can you give us a little bit of a preview of what we can expect from that?
By all means. You ask a writer to talk to you, and it's like turning on the tap. You know, there's just no way that you can do this with a short answer. However, this is something even Carol doesn't know. No, there isn't much that she doesn't know about us, right? But she doesn't know about this. The next book, and this is the first time that I'm really talking about this in public, is called The Hidden Genes of Professor K. Pausing for a moment, you think, well, does that maybe have something to do with medical research and science? The answer is, of course, yes, it does. In fact, this particular book has been inspired during my privileged involvement with the Garvan, the many scientists I have met, the research and the fascinating subject matter of what they do, and I have found a topic that I find will be subject to a novel that I want to develop. And in fact, the Hidden Genes of Professor K is the next book. Wow. It is about medical research, it is about science, it is inspired by the Garvan, and hopefully, all going well, it will be released this time next year.
Anybody in this room mentioned?
I was just thinking that.
That my lips remain sealed, otherwise I may never be invited again.
Actually, I'd just like to say, as Gabriel has mentioned, there's a copy of his wonderful book here for all of you to take home, and he'll be able to sign that for you. But would you like to just give them a little bit of an idea of what it's about, the genre, and what they can expect from that novel, just to excite them a bit?
Delighted. Again, I will try and keep that short. As you have obviously gathered, I'm a fiction writer, so it is a large book of fiction. It is anchored in history. It deals with the disappearance from the pages of history of a spectacular artifact that is part of the scriptures that has mysteriously disappeared, and no one is quite sure where it is. And it is the search for that particular artifact that motivated the writing of the book. It is a great adventure story. It has lots of fascinating characters, I believe, and they are anchored in real life. It's based on people I've come across during the many years at the bar and criminal law and the practice, and they all are anchored in real life. So it is a big quest for a special artifact. I don't want to give too much away for you. It is an adventure that spans about 3,000 years of history. It's a big book, it's about 600 pages, many parts. I like to write fiction for the thinking reader. I want to tease your imagination, I want to tease your intellect, I want to take you into different parts of history, and then, after researching it, I change it a little, and I ask myself, what if it happened that way? So you're never quite sure where fact and fiction meet. It's the intellectual teaser. You're not certain. You know certain parts of it because you've learned about it, you've read about it, but then I change it and I take you into a different scenario of possibilities and imagination that hopefully you will find entertaining. So it's a big adventure, it's a big book. Hopefully it might be something you might enjoy over Christmas.
Sure.
And if I'm really, really lucky, perhaps I can hear back from you and you can give me a little feedback as to how you enjoyed it or didn't, or what you liked about it, because there's no greater reward for an author and a writer than to hear back from his readers. I have, fortunately, many readers. They are anonymous, they're out there. I never see them, I never communicate with them. So this is a unique opportunity for you here in this room to be able to hopefully communicate with me going forward and to tell me how you find it.